Most men believe attraction begins when a woman notices them. But in reality, it often begins long before that. Something is already happening in your life right now, quietly, almost invisibly, and you may not realize it because nothing dramatic announces it, no obvious signal appears, and no one ever teaches you how to recognize it. You walk away from conversations thinking they were neutral. You replay moments that felt ordinary. And yet, from her side, something was already forming or already fading, based on impressions that never entered your awareness at all. The reason you keep missing this is not because you are careless or inexperienced, but because you were taught to look in the wrong direction. You were shown the visible things, the obvious things, the things that can be demonstrated or displayed. And so your attention has been trained to focus outward, while the real signals operate quietly underneath the surface. What makes this more frustrating is that these signals are not rare. They are not reserved for a specific type of man. They are present in everyday interactions, in moments that seem unremarkable at the time, and that is exactly why they are overlooked. By the end of this video, you will be able to see what has been shaping attraction long before you thought it began, understand why women respond to it so strongly, and recognize the signals you have been sending all along, without ever intending to. You might think you're being judged on what you show, but she's responding to what she senses beneath it. Most men believe attraction works like a presentation, where the right traits are placed on display and then evaluated. But from a psychological perspective, women are rarely responding to the surface itself. They are responding to what the surface implies. When a woman feels drawn to someone, her attention is not fixed on isolated traits, but on the emotional and behavioral meaning those traits suggest about the man's inner state. This is why two men can say the same words, dress similarly, and even behave politely, yet create entirely different impressions. The difference is not in the action itself, but in what that action communicates emotionally. Researchers often describe this as interpretation over information, meaning the brain is less concerned with what is happening and more concerned with what it means. You may think you are communicating confidence by emphasizing achievements, or value by highlighting effort, but she is unconsciously asking a different question. She is assessing how grounded you are while doing it. Attraction is not about display, it is about translation. Of course, context always matters here. Visible traits do play a role, especially at first contact, but they are only the doorway. What determines whether attraction grows or dissolves is how those traits are emotionally read once the interaction continues. The common mistake most men make is trying to adjust the display without realizing the interpretation remains unchanged. They improve the surface while leaving the underlying signal untouched. Once you understand that attraction is interpreted, the next question becomes what she is actually interpreting. One of the strongest attraction signals is not intensity, it's containment. Emotional self-containment refers to the ability to experience emotion without leaking it outward in ways that seek regulation from another person. In simple terms, it is the difference between having feelings and needing someone else to manage them for you. When a woman senses emotional containment, her nervous system relaxes because it signals stability rather than unpredictability. When a man speaks calmly about something that matters to him, without pressing for validation or reassurance, it creates a sense of groundedness. When he listens without rushing to correct, impress, or rescue the moment, it communicates emotional capacity. Containment is not silence, it is steadiness. You can see this in small moments. Perhaps you share a story that carries weight, and instead of scanning her reaction or adjusting mid-sentence, you let the story land. Or maybe a moment of awkwardness appears, and you do not rush to fill it with humor or explanation. Now, you might be thinking that emotional openness is supposed to be attractive, and you would be right, but openness and leakage are not the same thing. Openness invites connection. Leakage demands regulation. Women feel this difference instinctively. This does not mean never expressing emotion. It means expressing it without asking her nervous system to stabilize yours. The mistake many men make here is over-clarifying or self-correcting emotionally, especially when they sense uncertainty. They try to manage the impression rather than staying with their internal state. Emotional containment becomes visible through behavior, especially in how you move through everyday moments. She notices how quickly you rush, even when you think nothing is happening. Pace is one of the most overlooked communicators of value because it operates below conscious awareness. The speed at which you speak, respond, decide, or physically move tells a story about your relationship with time and pressure. When a man moves through interactions without urgency, it subtly suggests that he is not operating from scarcity. Behavioral psychology shows that humans associate calm pacing with perceived abundance. When you do not rush to answer, when you allow a pause before responding, when your movements feel deliberate rather than reactive, it signals that you are not chasing outcomes. Pace is emotional, not logistical. Imagine a conversation where you take a breath before responding, not to calculate, but because you are comfortable letting the moment breathe. Or consider how you choose when to suggest something, rather than immediately filling space with plans or ideas. Of course, slow does not mean disengaged. There is a difference between grounded pacing and withdrawn hesitation. One feels present, the other feels absent. Women sense this distinction quickly. The common mistake men make is confusing enthusiasm with speed. They accelerate to show interest, not realizing that acceleration often communicates pressure rather than desire. Pace is not only about time, it's about how comfortable you are occupying space. Most men try to fill silence, not realizing silence is already doing the work. Silence and space create psychological contrast. When a man is comfortable allowing silence to exist, it suggests emotional tolerance and internal structure. The brain reads this as confidence because it signals that nothing needs to be forced into place. Women often notice how a man handles moments without clear direction. Does he rush to define them, explain them, or rescue them from ambiguity? Or does he allow the moment to unfold naturally? Silence is not empty. It is informative. You might notice her watching you during a pause, not to judge your words, but to feel your presence. Does the silence feel grounded or tense? Does your body remain relaxed, or does it tighten with the urge to perform? Now, this does not mean silence is always attractive. Context matters. Silence combined with disengagement or emotional distance creates confusion, not attraction. But silence paired with presence creates polarity, the dynamic tension that fuels interest. The mistake many men make here is over-explaining. They try to resolve uncertainty too quickly, removing the space where attraction forms. When space and silence are handled well, women begin testing something deeper: consistency. Attraction is rarely decided in calm moments. It's decided when something shifts. Consistency under emotional pressure reveals whether earlier signals were authentic or situational. When something unexpected happens, when plans change, or when emotional tension appears, a woman observes how your internal state responds. Psychologically, this relates to predictability. The nervous system is drawn to patterns that remain stable across changing conditions. If your demeanor shifts dramatically under stress, attraction weakens, even if nothing obvious is said. Pressure reveals structure, not personality. You might notice this during a mild disagreement, a delayed response, or a moment of misunderstanding. Do you stay centered, or do you become reactive, defensive, or overly accommodating? This does not mean never feeling pressure. It means not outsourcing regulation when pressure appears. Women often test this unconsciously, not as manipulation, but as information gathering. The common mistake men make is trying to perform consistency rather than embody it. They suppress emotion instead of integrating it, which eventually leaks out in other ways. Remember what I told you at the start, that there was one signal most men not only miss, but actively misread? We are getting close to it now. There is one final signal, quieter than all the others, that women register almost immediately. The moment you stop trying to get something from her, something changes. Non-neediness is not a tactic. It is an internal orientation. When a man desires without grasping, when he engages without expectation, his presence shifts. The interaction becomes cleaner, lighter, and more open. This is not indifference, it is freedom. Women feel this as emotional safety because it removes pressure from the moment. There is nothing to manage, no role to play, no outcome to protect, just interaction. Of course, this does not mean wanting nothing at all. Desire is natural. What matters is whether desire controls your behavior or simply informs it. The mistake many men make is attempting to act non-needy while still internally seeking validation. The body reveals the truth before words ever do. This understanding changes not just attraction, but how you show up in relationships. What ties all of these signals together is not technique, but internal coherence. Attraction grows when your behavior, pacing, emotional regulation, and presence tell the same story. The larger truth is simple. Women are not looking for perfection. They are responding to stability. You now have the ability to recognize what is actually shaping attraction in real time, without guessing, overanalyzing, or performing. And that awareness alone changes how you move through interactions. You do not need to monitor every moment. You do not need to control outcomes. You only need to notice what you are already communicating. Which of these signals do you realize you've been overlooking in your own behavior? On this channel, I focus on helping you understand what is happening beneath the surface, so you can move through relationships with clarity instead of confusion. In the next video, we'll explore the quiet moment when attraction either deepens into attachment or disappears without explanation.